Howdy dorks. End of week 10. We only have one more week in the regular season of the 2022 Texas high school football season before the best time of the year is here. 6 weeks of Texas high school football playoffs, and we were nowhere short of bangers for week 10. Let's go ahead and start off with probably one of the most anticipated matchups, especially in the DFW of the weekend. Well, there was two of them, but we'll start off with this one. Southlake Carroll and Byron Nelson in District 4 6A. This was probably the most anticipated matchup in 4 6A that we've seen in a long time. Usually, Southlake Carroll doesn't really get tested. Someone might have a really good first half against them, maybe one of the Keller schools if they're on an up year. Eaton was pretty good a couple years ago, but this was a legitimate test for them. Byron Nelson came in as the highest scoring offense in all of 6A, and we knew that this was going to be a big test, and Carroll pulled one out at home 38-23 over Byron Nelson, and Nelson was up early. I'm pretty sure it was 14-0 at one point when they turned to the guy they needed to get going, and that was Owen Allen. If people are still not giving Owen Allen the respect that he deserves, I remember watching this kid as a sophomore and thinking, he's something really special. Brady Boyd was back there at the time. Quinn Ewers was there at the time. But it was like, that little guy at running back, he's much bigger now, but back then it was like, that little guy at running back is really something special. He's quick, he's elusive, he's hard-hitting, and you could tell he really understood all of his assignments, and he continues to be the guy. Now, this was a little bit of a nightmare matchup for Byron Nelson when the weather ended up being as bad as it was, and that's a theme throughout the night, but Byron Nelson is a high-flying team, and the weather was really bad out there. That game didn't even start until, it was supposed to kick off at 7. I don't think it started until like 8:20 was maybe when they finally got that thing kicked off. So a long night facing a lot of adversity, and Southlake Carroll, that was the dream for them, was to make it a one-dimensional run game with the weather, but that takes nothing away from what Owen Allen did, and that's a huge win for them, solidifying the district championship for Carroll in District 4 6A. Another big game that was happening in the DFW, it was Duncanville DeSoto week, District 11 6A, the District of Doom. We continue to call it that. We knew for a fact that this was going to be the game that decided the championship. Now, Duncanville has won the past 4 meetings, and guess what? They did it again, and this was a staggering result. 41-10 over DeSoto. Those 10 points from DeSoto came in the third quarter, but this was scoreless at half. I think it was 28-0 or 27-0. We knew it was a bad matchup, again with the rain, because Duncanville's defense is outstanding. Pound for pound, one of the best defensive lines in the entire state. That doesn't necessarily bode well for a DeSoto squad that has a very good quarterback and has weapons when they can get down the field. If you don't allow the offensive line, if the offensive line doesn't allow much coverage getting in the back to Bailey, it was going to have to be a quick draw, and that's not something that DeSoto's usually used to having to deal with. So this Duncanville defensive line, this Duncanville front seven, all of these Duncanville defense as a whole, even the secondary played outstanding tonight, but that defensive line was exactly what they needed to say, hey, you're not getting past us ever. And Reggie Samples, he came on at halftime and said, defense is what we do, and he was exactly right. So Duncanville now looking at 6A Division 1, man, it's really hard to find a team that could even really contest with them. Maybe North Crowley, maybe Louisville. It's looking like a clear path. With Southlake Carroll going D2, it's looking like a clear path for Duncanville in Division 1. Let's head down to the Brazos Valley, where College Station takes down crosstown rival A&M Consolidated 38-28. That was 38 unanswered points. College Station had one of the best comebacks that we've seen in a while, and this is crazy because go back to what they did last week against Georgetown. They dropped that game to Georgetown, and we're going, what in the world were you doing? It was 35-3 at halftime last week, and they put up a really good fight to bring that back within like 10 or 11 points, but it was too little too late. we were looking at this game going, gosh darn it, they're going to do the same thing again. Now, their defense played outstanding in the second half, and Aiden Martinez-Brown, the running back, the junior running back, sophomore running back rather, that has filled that hole with Marquise Collins getting injured before the year even started, is playing lights out. That part of the state, College Station, is a young program still relatively. They're turning into a running back factory down there, but an unbelievable win by College Station to bounce back, and that makes that district just absolute chaos, because it could have been Consolidated's to win if they would have won tonight. Now there's a couple of other teams in flux, so next week will be a very important week to see if there's a co-district champions, if someone can pull it out. But big win by College Station, but they got to quit doing that, man. Like, Stony Friar's got to go up to him and say, guys, we're going to need you to play a first quarter, because we can only do this and fight and claw our way back so many times. Full Shear guts one out against district rival Manville, 9-7. That's wild, right? Because Full Shear, before they lost to Angleton, was the highest scoring offense out of any Texas high school football program. They have Nick Caduti, the offensive genius there, leading that. We wondered, okay, Manville's defense had really stepped it up. They're a team that started off 1-2, but they really have bounced back and created a good defensive squad. So it was going to be, okay, this is probably going to be one of Full Shear's greatest tests from a defensive standpoint. But when this one stayed 9-7, it was wild. Now, Manville did try to kick a game-winning field goal, and it was missed. So Full Shear escapes out by a very thin margin. But what this showed me tonight is Full Shear does have enough of a defense that when they need to gut this out and the offense isn't able to turn this into a track meet, they can do it. I know that they prefer to turn it into a track meet. That's how they're used to winning, but it showed good there. A game that I was not able to watch a whole lot of, but a very surprising score here, Alvarado taking down Stephenville 50-49. That is letting one loss beat you twice. You remember last week, it was number 1 versus number 2. They lost to China Spring, and that is a classic tale of saying, well, we're not going to win the district championship, but we'll definitely go out there and beat the rest of these teams. There's no doubt about it. Just wasn't able to do it. And they were up at halftime, I believe. Craig Weiss told me when I was leaving the studio, they were up at halftime and found a way to Alvarado. Shout out to them. I mean, an unbelievable win for them, but a very disappointing loss for Stephenville there. And finally, I want to highlight a 6-man game as number 4 ranked Jonesboro takes down the number 3 ranked May Tigers in a 65-40 battle. We talked with Coach Gallegos on Football Friday. He was amped up. This is a really big win for them. If you look back at what Jonesboro has done so far, their only loss come from number 2 Westbrook, and when you take a look at that side of the bracket, I mean, it is very likely that we'll see May and Jonesboro in a regional final, and if they were to get past that, then you're looking at possibly facing Westbrook again. But a huge win for Coach Eddie Gallegos and what he's doing down there with the Jonesboro Eagles. So a very fun week of Texas high school football. If you're watching this before 1, go ahead and get over to Valley Sports Southwest. Sarah Merrifield, Greg Tepper, and Craig Way bringing you High School Scoreboard Live with coverage from all across the state. But if you're watching this afterwards, make sure to tune in on Monday to TFT. We'll see you then.